Ladies and gentlemen, we are live now on Good Cuppa of LLJ. Let's welcome Ace Darling. How's it going?
Hey, Liza. Nice to finally talk to you. Been friends with you on social media for a while now. It's nice to actually hear a voice and see
Aw-
a face.
Awesome. I've wrote down some bullet points questions here.
Mhm.
One I'm going to ask you right off the bat. It's not anything to do with wrestling. It's just my own curiosity. Is your last name Italian?
Yes. I'm 100% Italian. Well, I'll tell you this. For my entire life, I thought I was 100% Italian. Now my mom is like on this, what's that thing called where you spit in the cup? What's that thing called? And you
Oh,
mail it in. Oh, gosh, it's all over the web. There's commercials every 2 seconds for it. You know what I'm talking
oh
about,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Ancestry.com. That's
yeah,
Ancestry. Yeah. So she gets this back, and I'm like, I think I'm Italian, but you get those results back, and I'm like a million different things. But yes, I am Italian.
yeah. I done my one recently. Because my mum has Italian background, and yeah, it showed up with my own being like Vatican City, San Marino, Sardinia, and Malta. But
Mm,
yeah, I was just curious because I thought it might have been Italian, but
yes,
that was
sir.
just my own curiosity, so I thought I'd ask. So, what part of Italy did you come from? Does it say?
Oh,
Or
I, I have no idea. Several different. I know my one grandfather is Sicilian, and that's all I can remember. I don't remember the rest.
nice. Um, yeah, no worries. I'll lead in with this. You've worked for WWF, now WWE, WCW, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, etc. Teamed with Devon Storm, i.e. Crowbars, the Extremist. Wrestled in the ring with him. Teamed with Billy Kidman, Matt Striker. You've wrestled Shawn Michaels, Owen Hart, Scott Hall, Kurt Angle, Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, etc. So many greats. How did you start in professional wrestling?
I was like the wrestling guy in high school. Like every high school class has the wrestling guy. Everyone wears regular clothes, and the one guy wears like the Hacksaw Jim Duggan T-shirt. Well, that was me. I was like, I didn't want to play baseball. I didn't want to watch football. My whole life was wrestling. I grew up in New Jersey, so that's primarily WWF. So I started watching. I'm 48, so I started watching in '85. So Hulk Hogan, JYD, uh, Paul Orndorff, Roddy Piper, the rock and wrestling era, the larger than life characters, Jimmy Snuka, and I fell in love. And I I knew of one school in New Jersey, the Monster Factory, and that was run by Larry Sharp, and that was probably about an hour from my house. My junior year, I sent them a letter that I wanted to come down after my senior year when I got my license, and they responded back, and I had a letter. I was like, oh my gosh, I thought it was like I won the lottery. Like, oh my gosh, a wrestling school got back to me. I mean, they do that to everybody. I was talking to Headbanger Thrasher because he was a teacher at Larry. He's like, yeah, we send those to everybody. So I was going to go to Larry Sharp's, which was about an hour from me, but our Mike Sharp opened a school in Bricktown, and I'm from Freehold, and they're like legit 12 miles, 12 minutes actually from each other, probably less than 10 miles. So I had a wrestling school right in my backyard.
That's awesome. I've heard of on Mike Sharp. I don't know a heap about his background, but he had like background in Memphis, didn't he? I can't remember. Or am I
He was
thinking of
he.
someone else?
I mean, I'm sure he was in Memphis. He was quite a journeyman. Mike Sharp was. I mean, he was a top enhancement talent for the WWF. He was, regular talent for them as well. But towards the end of his career, he just worked TVs and a few house shows. But he wrestled everywhere. He's a second generation wrestler, big man, a strong man, quite a crowbar in the ring. Like he hit you hard. He was old school. Everyone, if you're in the wrestling business, you have a Mike Sharp story. He was a character, very nice man, very honest man. So I have nothing negative to say about Mike at all. He was always very nice and approachable and answered your questions. But yeah, but he was quite the journeyman. He was all over the place.
Other well-known talent like Stevie Richards. I'm not going to call him Steven Richards. Stevie Richards, and whatnot trained under him too. Eh?
Well, Stevie wasn't a member of the school. He
Oh,
came down and trained there, though. He definitely came down, and we had like the school shows, like in front of your friends and 40 of your friends and family, every other Saturday. And Stevie came down. It's funny. I joined the school on a like a Friday. The following Friday, Stevie started coming down there. So I've known him since I was 18 years old, so over 30 years. And yeah, Stevie would come down there. Devin Storm was there.
nice.
Um, Simon Dean Nova.
Oh, nice.
He was there.
Nova.
Trying to think guys you'd know. There's like great indie talent. Like there's a guy, Mike Tarris from the Independents up here is really good talent. He's from there. I know I'm forgetting like somebody and they're gonna call me out on it, but there's a lot of good talent. The only issue I had at Mike Sharp's wrestling school is there was no trainer. Like there was no like this is the agenda, this is the curriculum. It was kind of like, okay, I've been here 6 months, you've been here 9 months. Show me what you know, and I'll show the guys who've been here for 3 months. Like so there was a guy, Bobby Piper, who was there that helped out a lot, and he taught me a lot when I was first breaking in. I always give him as much credit as I can because he really helped out. Because there was no trainer. There was no. It was a lot of like multi-man tag matches where we're all just on the apron, just tagging in and doing moves. So there's no psychology. The building itself, the ceiling was very very low, so you couldn't really do anything off the top. Um, yeah, that's where I broke in. I was a senior in high school. It was 1992. Cost $2,500, and it was a good school. It was a nice building. It was a brick town.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, I was born '86, so I'm like 36. Um, I think yeah. Leading up from that, I was going to ask what's went into starting out as a wrestler. So like, when you're starting out as a wrestler.
As far as the training, as far as getting booked on shows, as far
Yeah, just all the foundation. So
uh,
you could
you
mention training to like you
yeah,
just early days.
it's like anything else. The more reps you get doing anything, the better you get. I've been doing the YouTube channel, just like I'm doing here, but I'm on the other side. My first one was atrocious, but 6 months later, you start getting your feet wet, you start getting more comfortable. It's like anything, it's just like wrestling. The moves and the bumps always came very easy to me. I attacked the mat. I was really good at bumping. I love that part. I love the actual wrestling part of it. Psychology just takes time. You just you just need to work with more experienced guys than you. And I don't mean like at the wrestling school. I mean guys who are experienced workers who will call it in the ring and take you under their wing and teach you how to work. But it's just basically getting in front of people as often as you can as well. Like those first Mike Sharp wrestling school shows in front of 40 people. To me, it was like 100,000 people. It was WrestleMania. Like I would literally leave the show on a Saturday and say, and the next day I'd be like, oh, 13 more days to the next show. It was like, it was the most exciting thing in my life. I was a senior in high school, training to be a pro wrestler. I thought, it was just the greatest thing. But then you need to venture out and you need to make connections and you need to send your stuff out and meet promoters. And they didn't have the internet back then. There was no internet in '92. You couldn't go on there. You had to actually mail a VHS cassette. You couldn't just go online and Google somebody. You had to find the guy, get the address, or you show up at the show and you just give a packet. It says my information, and I was lucky. I hooked up with a lot of good people right off the bat. So getting work was never hard for me after my first year wrestling.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, I remember like just when I was growing up, you had like dial-up internet, obviously, and then like you started to get more access, but there was like the tape trading era and all that. So I used to buy like I was a bit naughty and I'd do like tape trading and buy like indie tapes.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
where now you got streaming. Um, how did you grow to become a known wrestling talent, breaking in Smoky Mountain TV, WCW, WWF, doing TV jobs at 18 years old, teaming with
Yes.
Devon Storm,
Sorry.
Crowbar, Kidman, Matt Striker, etc.,
Ooh,
etc.
a lot of stuff. Okay. Well, so I was doing the Mike Sharp Wrestling School shows, and the WWF came to a small convention center here. If anyone from Jersey, they know the Asbury Park Convention Center. It's like a legendary building around here. So they came there. It was a small building, big show that came there. I remember Macho Man was on it, Undertaker was on it, Mike Sharp was on it. So the road agents at the time were Tony Garea, uh, Rene Goulet, Chief J Strongbow. So those guys were the guys that booked talent, that booked the enhancement talent. So this was June 1992. I just probably days after my high school graduation. I said Tony Garea was there, and I said to him, "Hey Tony," I said, "if you guys need enhancement talent," I said, I go to Mike Sharp's wrestling school," and he said to me, he goes, "Mike Sharp has a school?" So I was worried that I put my foot in my mouth, because if Mike wanted him to know he had a school, he would have told him he had a school. So I was thinking maybe Mike didn't advertise the fact that he had a school because he wanted to keep going up and doing TV. I don't know, but I'm just thinking, like, I found it shocking that he didn't know that the Mike Sharp had a school. And then a month later, we're going up to do TV. My first TV, it was Portland, Maine, and Worcester, Mass. I didn't work the Worcester, Mass tapings. I worked Skinner in Portland, Maine. And again, my birthday's in June. This was July. I was 18. There had to be 10,000 people there. I was green as grass, scared out of my mind. And a good thing I was in there with a pro like Steve Kern, Skinner, because he took care of me. And yeah, that they didn't call us back right away. And about the next summer, we started going up on a consistent basis. Myself, Mike Bucci, who was Simon, who went on to be Simon Dean, Dan Dubiel. Do you remember? There's there's a very famous YouTube clip or GIF or whatever you call them of Yokozuna, like literally jumping and landing feet straight up. I mean, you can Google it, I'm sure. And the guy who took that was one of our guys, Dan Dubiel, and I was traveling with him for those shows, and yeah, he got anyway. That was Dan Dubiel. He was a hell of a talent too. He never got a chance to show the world, but he was a hell of a talent. And we'd go up regularly, and it's like once you get in the mix, you start working with everybody. So like I mean, I worked with, trying to think of all the guys I worked with IRS several times, Jeff Jarrett several times, Shawn Michaels, Owen Hart, Bastion Booger, Adam Bomb, the Quebecers, the Head Shrinkers, Henry Godwin, Tatanka, Ludwig Borga, Matt Bourne is Doink, Bam Bam Bigelow, Quang, who was Savio Vega, Razor Ramon. It's yeah. I mean, you work with everybody. When you're up there, it's you get to work with everybody there, and I loved it. I mean, it was they book you for 3 days. They'd give you $150 plus trans plus your hotel. How do you beat that every 3 weeks? If you're 18, 19, 20 years old.
Awesome stuff. Some of those talent are pretty good names too. It was actually like similar to the question I was going to ask you, because I was going to ask you, can you talk about some of the great talent that you have wrestled in your career?
Yeah,
But
well, that was just like TV jobs, you know. Then like I've worked with Billy Kidman on the Independents forever, Crowbar on the Independents, 100 times. It's great. It's one thing when you go up there and you do TV and you have a 4 minute match, but like I have to wrestle Marty Jannetty in like a 20-minute indie match, or Bob Holly on an indie match, or Bart Gunn on an indie match, or Who Cold Scorpio, or whoever. So let's go. All if there's a guy in ECW, I wrestled him. So I mean, it's I had to wrestle Kurt Angle in a dark match, one of his first matches while doing TV.
nice. So what was it like wrestling Kurt Angle?
Well, okay, so back in the day, I don't know if you ever hear of like the Funkin' JoJo's or any of those training classes they used to have.
Oh yeah, Dory Funk Jr.
Yeah, yeah, they used to have like these camps, and anyone that they wanted to take a look at, they'd have like a week long camp, and then on the weekend they'd go to like a reputable indie show, like a Jim Kettner ECWA or Blaine DeSantis PCW. So like a lot of the guys were like were Kurt Angle, or they were Chris. That's where I got to meet and work with Christian. I'll tell you a Christian story when the Kurt Angle story is over. Don't let me forget that. You got to work with Test was there. He was Andrew Martin at the time. These guys are green. These weren't Christian Captain Charisma. This was, Christian Cage, a shy guy from Canada. It's like these weren't. This wasn't Kurt. This wasn't the Olympic gold medalist. Well, he was, but you know what I mean. It wasn't Kurt Angle. It was Kurt Angle. So I was always on the shows that they were on, and I think back in the day, like when the WWF would guys who weren't booked, like Cornette would book them on third party bookings for indie shows, and they would always work with me, like me or Simon Diamond. It was Lance Diamond at the time. They only work with a few guys. I think like we were on like the allowed list. I think I might be making that up, but it just seemed like they were always working with me or Simon Diamond. But so Kurt Angle, I knew of Kurt Angle as a developmental wrestler. I live in a bubble. I don't know anything about sports. I don't know anything about politics. I take care of my kids. I go to work. So I see on the board me versus Kurt Angle in a dark match, and he's not even on TV yet. So I went up to him. I said, "I'm working tonight," and he said to me, "Would you mind calling the match for me?" And I'm like, "You got it, Kurt." So I know nothing about Kurt Angle. So we're standing in the gorilla position, and we're getting ready to go out. This was at the Meadowlands Arena, which was my arena that I went to as a kid. Was the Meadowlands Arena, so it was so special for me to work. You go to TV expecting it squash, but I got to work a dark match, and so we get ready to go out, and Jim Ross comes over and is talking to Kurt, and Kurt was in Memphis at the time. He said, "Kurt, with your Olympic with your Olympic background and the promos you're starting to cut, you're going to be quite the worker." And like an idiot, I walk up to him, and literally like it's like the show starts at 7. We're going on at 6:45 for a dark match. And I said to him, "Oh, Kurt, you were in the Olympics?" And he goes, "Yeah, I won the gold medal for wrestling." And right there, they told me to go to the ring. And I'm walking to the ring, and I'm thinking he's just going to kill me, because that's like saying, "Hey, Walt Disney, you ever been to an amusement park?" You know what I mean? It's like I thought I really insulted the guy, but he went in the ring, and it was great. We had like a 10-minute match too. It was really good too. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like he was a professional even back then, where he was just like, wanting to do the best he could in the ring and wasn't worried about like getting offended or ego or anything.
No, because again, he was a rookie. He was more nervous for the match than I was. Like he said, I called the match for him at the time. I ran into him like 15 years later. I'm like, "Hey, Kurt, remember me?" He's like, "Sorry, I don't." I'm like, "You son of a gun." But anyway, he probably had a lot of matches since then.
Um, I'll ask you this one now. I'll probably lead on to it later in my questions, but it sort of like seems to be good timing. The ECWA Super 8 tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about that? Because I think you won it like 97 or
Whatever the first one was, I won it. Well, Jim, I'll tell you about Jim Kettner. He ran the ECWA, and it was a promotion out in Delaware, and he would run the same building 10 times a year. So, you get to go back and tell stories, and it was the same crowd. It was a hot crowd too. And you grabbed the headlock and they cheered. It was the easiest crowd and the most loyal fans too. Like they were baby faces there. Guys, unfortunately, you never heard of. Guys like Boogie Woogie Brown, guys like the Cheetah Master. They were so over. I wrestled the Cheetah Master and my ears hurt. The people were screaming. They're screaming for him. It was like the olden days in wrestling, but the people in Delaware, they were great. And Jim always gives me a lot of credit for it. I just remember me and Kidman, who was Kid Flash at the time, and Simon Diamond, who was Lance Diamond. We just said, "Why don't we have a tournament one night, like the old the J Cup stuff?" And it was no big deal. It was just another show in his session of 10 shows he had that year. And it was he was just getting a local TV deal, and it was a way to introduce the TV title and to put it on me. I won the Super 8. That's really all it was. But then we had one the next year, and I was in it. We had the next year, I was in it. We had one the next year. I hosted it, and someone legit got hurt the first round after they won the tournament. So this is I'm not no wrestling storyline. So the fourth, and I'm jumping all over the place. So the fourth Super 8, I believe his name was Jet Jaguar. he won his first round match. He was supposed to wrestle Chris Daniels in the second round. And he comes back and he either a concussion, something where he couldn't wrestle. I look at Jim and I'm like, well, wouldn't it make sense for me to fill in? He's like, get your stuff. I said, no. He goes, go out there. So I start stretching. I was like, I literally, I had a suit on. I start stretching in my, what do you call it? Like suit pants, and they split down the middle. So I run around. I was seeing if someone had a pair of workout pants. So they did. I put on an ECWA Super 8 t-shirt, barefoot, and went out there and wrestled Chris Daniels in the second round of the fourth Super 8. But as the years went on, he would bring the Hardy Boys were in it, both Matt and Jeff one year. Chris Daniels, like I said. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of big names. Low Key, Brian Kendricks, Paul London. I'm leaving guys out. Charlie Haas was in it one year, and it always seemed like whoever was in the Super 8, then they started getting a little more of a buzz on the indies, and like that's where Ring of Honor first started. So, what's up, man? Who's that? Can't pronounce his name, but El Guardian. What's up, brother? But that's where the Super 8 started. It was just literally just a show, just to get us to the next month's show. And it just every year, Jim. The second year he brought in Scott Taylor, who was Scotty Too Hottie, and then like every year he'd bring like one guy in, and sooner or later it just became like this big show where people from all over the country, WWE was a part of. But Jim's promotion was great.
Awesome stuff. I'll just say hi to
the Christian story. The Christian
Gardner.
story. So Christian was doing these shows. Christian was doing these shows as part of the camps. So if you ever hear Christian, he tells us this famous story that he first got offered his developmental deal, and they wanted him to go to this camp. And he said to the WWE, they said, "Listen, I have dates I want to fulfill. I don't want to just no show the promoters." And WWE thought that was a very classy thing to say. So camp started on Sunday, and he had a show in Delaware. So it was Connecticut. He had a show in Delaware, which a couple hours away that night. So they had a car. He's wrestling me. He always tells a story, but he never mentions that it was me who was wrestling at the show that the WWF drove him to. So they had a car service pick him up in Connecticut, drive him to the Delaware show, and then we had to go on early and drive him back. So we were on second because he had to get back by a certain time. He shows up as the music is playing for the first match to come back from the ring. So I literally said to him, I was like, "Hey, bro, we're on in 60 seconds. What's your finish?" He told me, I'm like, "I'll see you out there, buddy." And we went out there and we tore it up. So that's one of my Christian stories. Great guy. I was very, very happy to see the success he had because he was always a good dude. Even before he, was famous, he was always a hard worker and, loved wrestling, and good for him.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, when you mentioned about the rookie Kurt Angle, yeah, it reminded me of the ECWA Super 8, and so I thought it would be a good time to reference that. But the follow-up I was going to ask you, we've got another question from El Guardian, so I'll do this one first.
Those are memories about your brother's Crowbar. We were on some of the same events in the mid-late 90s. Thank you, buddy. Memories of Crowbar. He's a phenomenal person. He's a great family man. He's a very successful businessman. He doesn't need wrestling anymore. He still wrestles because he loves wrestling. He still wrestles like he's 25, and I want to punch him when I see him because he doesn't realize that we're both almost 50, and he's older than me. But you wouldn't know it because he can still move. My bouts with Crowbar. I mean, he and I, we started together at Mike Sharp's. We wrestled each other again 100 times. We're like the young high. I'll tell you a little backstory too. We were like the young high flyers at the time. The indie circuit was not what it is today in 1993. It was a bunch of older like WWF guys. Like there was Chief Jewel Strongbow or Hillbilly Cousin Luke. Guys who were great talents and knew how to work, but it was a very slow, plodding pace to their matches. So he and I would go out there and we'd do the stuff you see today that the people love today, that when you did it in 93, 94, you'd come back and the veterans would just destroy you for it because they'd say you're doing too much and you're killing the business and all that stuff. And to us, we just thought they were being lazy and didn't want to be overshadowed. But when you look back and you know it, you realize less is more, and we could have got away with doing a lot less at the time. But then would we have gotten booked? Who knows? But that was what he and I experienced a lot together early on. It was a lot of negative feedback from the veterans, but the promoters loved us, and we get booked all the time against each other. We've wrestled each other, gosh, all over the East Coast and for WWF in the light heavyweight division. We wrestled. We drove 9 hours to wrestle Monday Night Raw, live Raw. Cornette booked us. We were gonna wrestle 9 minutes, 10 minutes in a light heavyweight match. We cut promos beforehand. That they were a show on Raw on our way down the aisle. They took our headshots. I was like, here we go. Calling my parents, make sure you watch tonight. So it's live TV. Bret Hart goes out there and he cuts the promo that if the U.S. is right before SummerSlam '97, if the U.S. needs an enema, we're going to stick the tube right here in Pittsburgh. Like, phenomenal promo. But Bret goes long, and then the next segment goes long. So we get cut from 9 minutes to 8 minutes, and then they come back later on. They say you have 6 minutes, then you have 5 minutes, then you have 4 minutes, then you have 3 minutes, then you have 2 minutes. The next segment goes long. They come up to us and they say, as soon as you get in the ring, go home. And it was just deflating. It was just terrible. It was heartbreaking. So if you see a 60 seconds would be a lot longer than it was. If you see like a 32-second match of he and I from Raw, that's what happened. It was supposed to be 9 minutes. Sunny was going to be our she might still have been, but Sunny was going to be our announcer. Like, they did all the bells and whistles to try and get a little attention to our match. Cornette was a big supporter of he and I. And it got cut down to 60 seconds or 30 seconds. But they brought us back the next week, and we did it. We did it on Shotgun or Velocity, one of the two. But that's whatever. It is what it is. Hey, if they're gonna cut time, they're not gonna cut the Undertaker's time. They're gonna cut the cruiserweight nobodies. So teaming with him was great. He was, we got to wrestle. We got to wrestle everywhere together. We got to wrestle for WWF together. We wrestled a dark match for WWF together against the Misfits. They were an indie team. We wrestled. We were. I always tell Scotty Too High this. We were. NWA New England. Yeah, big time. We wrestled him. Tony Rumble, right? Tony Rumble used to take that helmet. I was just talking to Fandango because I had him on my show, and we were talking about New England wrestling. And I said, man, Tony Rumble, I love that man to death. But when he got you in the ring, you take that. He had his gimmick was the Boston Bad Boy, and he had like a not a baseball cap, but like the baseball, like the hitting hat. I don't know what you call it in baseball, but the hard hat. And he would whack you so hard that. Anyway, what was I saying? So I always tell Scotty Too Hotty that me and Crowbar were him and Brian's first win on TV. We wrestled them. We wrestled the DOA. Wrestled the Headbangers. Then we wrestled in WCW. Then we met Kevin Sullivan in New England through Tony Rumble. I never would have wrestled for WCW without Kevin Sullivan. He would go to the Tony Rumble shows. When we got booked there, we got to wrestle. And we really didn't wrestle a lot of good matches in WCW. Wrestled Hall and Nash a few times. We wrestled High Voltage. I'm trying to think who else. Joe Gomez and Renegade. Joe Gomez and Ice Train. Ice Train was awful. He'd just kill you with everything he did. He would kill you with everything he did. He would jump up in the air and land 300 pounds right on your chest. He was terrible. Nice guy, but I'd rather wrestle a jerk who takes care of you in there. He would kill you. Who else we wrestled? We had a good match of Public Enemy in WCW on like a Saturday night. But that's Devin Storm. Great guy. Still friends with him today. Went to Disney with him and his family and me and my family a couple times in the last couple of years. And I love him to death. Great guy. He needs to stop wrestling. He's a great guy. I worry about him.
Awesome stuff. I'm going to ask this question. I'm not sure if you ever crossed paths because it reminds me of Chris Jericho, Lance Storm when they were the Thrill Seekers, Sudden Impact. Did the Extremists ever cross paths with them?
I've never met Lance Storm ever. Not a day. I've never met Lance Storm. Chris Jericho was he was in WCW when I did TV for WCW. Great guy. He was always he was just one of the young guys. He was just a cruiserweight guy. He wasn't what he is today. Um, but yeah, we'd hang out at TV and talk. And I remember one time I said to Chris, I said, "So Chris, how's your schedule work? Do you work all the live events?" He was thinking about it. He goes, I think he goes, Dean. He goes, would you pretty much Dean Moinko? He goes, would you pretty much say that you work all the TVs, but the live events, if you're on a pay-per-view, they put you on more live events than if you're not. And he goes, no, the way it works around here is the more you get paid, the less you work. And he walked away. And that was Dean Moinko for you. Very dry sense of humor. But yeah, Chris was great. Chris is a good dude.
Got another question from El Guardian.
Wild or funny road stories. Yeah, there's wild stories. I mean, there's a lot of I think wild stories. Times that we've. Oh, I'll tell you a funny. I'll tell you a funny story. So it's not gonna be like a crazy like put your children to bed story because I have children, so I won't be telling any crazy put your children to bed stories. So we talked about Smoky Mountain. I did TV. I did Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette was always great to me. I love Jim Cornette to death. He's done so much for me. He's booked me so many times, different places, indie shows, WWE. Love the man. Love him. He's just love him. So, Balls Mahoney was John Reckner, who was Boo Bradley in Smoky Mountain. John is from New Jersey, so I knew him, and he needed a ride to Kentucky. So ride there, ride back, and then he was going to start full time in like another month. So myself, Balls Mahoney, who's Boo Bradley, and a young rookie by the name of AC Connor. Do you know who that is?
AC Connor, I'm having a mental blank. I've heard the name.
AC Connor went on to be D'Lo Brown.
Oh,
yeah. So the three of us
yeah,
are driving down. We're driving down to Clarksville, Kentucky, and it should have been an 8-hour trip. My car kept overheating, so it really became like a 12-hour trip. So we finally get to about an hour where we need to be, and John says, "Let's meet up with Chris Candido and Tammy. Let them take me to TV because this is like his big. This is coming out party. His debut there." Or maybe a second, I don't know, whatever. But the TV taping was revolved around him. So like, let you go, and then me and D'Lo will ride in my car, and if it overheats, we'll just stop 20 minutes, drive again. It was a trip from hell. So we're driving up, and they call it Smoky Mountain Wrestling because there's Smoky Mountains. So we're up on a hill, and we're riding, and the car in front of me stops short. So I hit my brakes and my car starts spinning and spinning. And literally, I'm on a mountain and spinning and spinning. And we rear off the mountain into like a muddy ditch. So it was like we could have, if we were like 2 more feet over one way or the other, we would have been dead. So we're stuck in a muddy ditch. So it's like I think might know where this is going if you've seen My Cousin Vinny. So I couldn't get out of the mud. So I said to D'Lo, like, why don't you rock the car and we'll try and get out of the mud. So he starts rocking. And he goes, okay, got it. So I got it, and I hear him screaming, stop. And I look, and he's covered in mud from head to toe, covered in mud. And if this happened in New Jersey, we'd still be stuck in that ditch. But the nice country folk, the trusting, nice country folk in Kentucky, they all pulled to the side of the road. They hitched us up. I couldn't hitch a car. I know nothing about this stuff. They hitched us up and pulled us out in like 10 minutes. I mean, that stuff just doesn't happen where I live. You know, they'd be people would be honking, waving, throwing stuff at you, laughing. But yeah, we got we got hitched out. We made it to TV on time, and I worked 4 times that day. I worked D'Lo in his tryout match, so I got D'Lo's job in Smoky Mountain. You can tell him I said that. Um, I wrestled John. I wrestled a battle royal. Um, and I wrestled Teal Hopper, but it wasn't Teal Hopper. He was
Dirty White Boy.
Tony Anthony. Yes, Dirty White Boy. I wrestled him too. So yeah, there's a lot of guys in that battle royal. There's Robert Gibson, the Gangsters were in there. You know, New Jack and Mustafa. I think who else? Jericho and Lance Storm were supposed to be. I tell a lie. I did beat Lance Storm. Lance Storm was at the TV. Jericho wasn't because he broke his arm. Lance Storm was at the TV, but he was just a Smoky Mountain guy at the time. But yeah, I've met Lance Storm before.
When you mentioned D'Lo Brown before, I remember in Smoky Mountain, he was a member of the controversial group called the Gangsters.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in Smoky Mountain, were the Gangsters a faction then, or?
Yeah, I said they were in the Battle Royal when I was in there. Yeah, they were there, and there wasn't again. This was like early '90s when a lot of these guys, like if you mention the name New Jack, there was no there was no there was no buzz, there was no fear, there was no history of the stuff he's done. It was just here's a guy who I was mesmerized by his promos. I mean, I couldn't believe I heard about it. I didn't get Smoky Mountain TV, but I heard about it, and that night I got to listen to him cut a promo. And man, could that guy talk? Wow, he was great. But yeah, there wasn't like, oh, those are the gangsters. Those are gangsters. There's no. They're nice. They're very nice. I was talking to Mustafa about how he broke in and New Jack. They're no issues there.
Yeah, because you hear a heap of stories of the gangsters in Smoky Mountain, how they become like quite controversial, and then they ended up leaving for ECW. But yeah, I thought I'd ask, being that you're in Smoky Mountain.
Well, I mean, a lot of the guys too. You got to realize you're in front of the hillbillies of Kentucky. Some black. I go back to the road story with D'Lo. As we were driving, there were places that had crosses. This is 1994, 95. This wasn't 1965. This is 1995. Maybe at the year off by a year. But we were driving. There were crosses in people's front lawn. Like D'Lo wouldn't get out of the car. It was so that's what these guys dealt with working for Smoky Mountain. There's a lot of racism back then. And back in those days, you're allowed to be racist. You're allowed to offend people. You're allowed to hurt people's feelings. You can't do that anymore. But yeah, that's why acts like the Gangsters, got so over in Smoky Mountain.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty gutsy, and I really enjoyed their work where they got great heat as well. Like I was into them and their personas as the gangsters. Like you could get interested in watching them. So yeah, from what I've seen of Smoky Mountain, yeah, they're probably one of my favorite factions in Smoky Mountain. I'll share this. El Guardian.
Favorite memories in the ring. Yeah, huh? You're keeping us going tonight, buddy. Fondest memories in the ring. That's a hard question. I got to wrestle. I got to wrestle I wrestled at the new Spectrum in Philly and the old Spectrum in Philly. But the old Spectrum in Philly was the place I went to my first WWF show, and they were ready to close down that arena. So that was pretty cool. That I got to go wrestle at a huge venue. For the it was no that was WCW. I wrestled WCW at the old Spectrum, WWF at the new Spectrum. And I think both were dark matches, so I got to actually work. One I don't remember. I think it was against Crowbar at the Spectrum, and no, it was too cool. It was there were too much at the time, too much at the Spectrum for like a shotgun Saturday night, and we got to work. So it was like a 9-10 minute TV match. That's on YouTube. That's a pretty good match. We worked a dark match that night, Devin and I as well, and he and I teamed at the old Spectrum against Joe Gomez, one of the nicest human beings ever, and Ice Train, who was not so much fun to work with. Favorite opponents. Crowbar. Kidman was great. Reckless Youth. He's a guy from the Indies. If you don't know who he is, you should know who he is. He was really good. Mike Quackenbush, Danny Inferno. I hate naming guys because you leave people out. Mike Paris. Um, Marty Jannetty was one of my favorites. That was a thrill for me. That was a big thrill for me wrestling Marty Jannetty on an indie show because I was a huge Rockers fan. I wrestled Sean, TV match, 4 minutes. I had to wrestle Marty. Reckless is awesome. I had to wrestle Marty, and it was, it was real indie. It was a lot of fun. So many fun memories. What else? Favorite matches. That's all I got for you. I mean, if you want to ask something else, I'll definitely answer it. But I hate mentioning favorite opponents because I just forgot people. Cheetah Master, Simon Diamond. Oh gosh, I'm gonna get, if anyone watches this, they're gonna say, they're gonna yell at me, but those are some of my favorites. Anytime I get to wrestle somebody that was from my childhood, like Tito Santana. Oh, love wrestling Tito Santana. Because number one, he's Tito Santana. Number two, he's my childhood hero. And number three, he still worked being older. So yeah, Tito was awesome. Like Hockey Talk Man. Anytime I got to wrestle someone that I watched when I was younger, it was just always a thrill.
Awesome stuff. Being that you're from New Jersey, I thought I'd like throw in like a local question for you. Thoughts on the overall wrestling landscape in New Jersey?
I'll be honest with you. I don't watch a lot of wrestling. I don't go to a lot of indie shows except for Tommy Fierro's ISPW. I'm representing ISPW right here. Tommy, my best friend. If anyone doesn't know who Tommy Fierro is, he runs the 80s Cons events. He runs one huge convention a year. His next one is May 6th at the Men Arena. He's got Bret Hart, Demolition. He has Powers of Pain, Wendy Richter, Magnum, Nikita, Tommy Rich. He's got a lot of talent, but he also has a wrestling store, the wrestling collector store, and he has the ISPW. So he also has signings at his store. So his shows are always solid shows, and I'll go there once in a while, twice a year. But twice a year, 3 times a year. It's just it's a Friday night. I work till 6. Got 3 kids. I got a wife. It's hard to got a YouTube channel. It's hard to juggle everything. But
Yeah,
I tell
I'm
you,
quite
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I'm quite a fan of ISPW. Like, I got into Tommy Fierro's columns when I was a teenager for One Wrestling, where he'd do fantasy booking, and then research ISPW. They've been around since like '99, I think, or before that. I can't remember.
Yeah, before that,
Um,
I'm pretty sure.
and I share a lot of their stuff because it's great they've made a comeback too. I'm really keen on, like, I've watched the YouTube shows. And they're a really great promotion, ISPW. A lot of great history. Can you tell us about some of the talent you've wrestled in ISPW?
Oh gosh, that's there now. I mean, I haven't wrestled since 2011. So I mean, guys, the only ones that I've wrestled there are the older guys like Danny Doring or Crowbar, but I haven't wrestled any of them. They have a lot of great young talent. Again, I'm gonna forget names, but like the kid there, Rick Recon, he's really good. Just tag team the Now, that's really good. There's a lot of good talent in the ISPW. There's a lot of great talent on the Indies. Guys need to
Yeah, Rick
get
Recon recently was trying to call you out of retirement, wasn't he?
yeah, yeah, he was it, and yeah, he's a very good talent. He's got a very big mouth, but he definitely has a lot of talent, and he's gonna be someone to watch. That's for sure. So want to keep your eye on.
Awesome stuff. I remember, like, just doing research, you held like the ISPW on a few occasions, title, and you wrestled like people like Chris Candido as well. Um,
So back, Tommy used to run Wildwood too. He'd run it every Wednesday for 8 weeks, and yeah, I worked Two Gold Scorpio there. Chris Candido, Samu from the Head Shrinkers. What a talent that guy is! Holy cow! I wrestled Samu. Uh, Samu and Fatu. So Fatu's Rikishi. I wrestled them a few times during TV, but then I had got to wrestle Samu outside of TV on the Indies. The guy's just amazing. He's one of those guys where you have to be in there to understand how good he is. He's just phenomenal. I wrestled a lot of guys from ISPW. Mikey Whipwreck, remember him from
Yeah,
ECW?
he's awesome.
Axel Rotten. Um,
Axel Rotten's pretty good as well.
Yeah, a lot of guys. ISPW is good. Let me tell you this too. For anyone out here listening, COVID came, and Tommy, my friend Tommy, had a great job. He had a corporate job. He had a corporate credit card. He had a corporate car, and he got fired because his company closed down through COVID. Now, a lot of people just licked their wounds and woe is me. He's got a wife and a daughter, but he went out there and he started his wrestling school, started doing virtual signings. He really made, I don't care what anybody says, Tommy really made the virtual signings very, very popular. Once the pandemic stopped, he started doing in-person signings. And, it's just hard work, hard work. You can't teach hard work and you can never beat hard work. So it's very motivating to know you're never down till you say you're down, because he was down, but he wasn't out, and he came back stronger than ever. So if anyone's in New Jersey, go to the Menon Arena. I'll be there May 9th, May 6th, excuse me, at the Menon Arena. It's going to be awesome. Bret the Hitman Hart's going to be there. What more do you need to hear, right? I mean, Bret Hart, wow. Last year's was amazing too. He had he had Jesse the Body Ventura there last year, so that was pretty cool meeting him.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, Bret Hart was someone I remember when I was really young watching. Childhood favorite. Yeah, Tommy Fierro also has a real great mind. So not just hard work, like he's brilliant. He trained under, I read, Dennis
Carluzzo.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dennis
another
was
one of a great mind.
Dennis was very good to me breaking into. Very good to me. That's how I got in with Cornette. Like Dennis, remember I said earlier, you need to be in there with experienced guys who know what they're doing and just call a match. He put me in there with Buddy Landell. What an unbelievable talent. He put me in there with PG-13. He put me in there with Doug Gilbert. He put me in there with, just good workers, guys who you don't have to call a lot of stuff and just know how to work. But Dennis did a lot for me breaking in, that's for sure.
Yeah. I was going to ask you this, following on from the New Jersey question. I'll ask you anyway. You're saying you don't really follow wrestling a lot in general, but I'll see what your take is. Thoughts on the overall wrestling landscape in America?
I watch the Royal Rumble every year because it's an entertaining show. And last year I went to sleep before the Rumble. Like I can't sit through. I don't want to sit through 4 hours of anything. Like there's nothing. I don't care. Tell me your most favorite activity you can think of. I don't want to do it for 4 hours. Like there's nothing I want to do for 4 hours. So these shows go on and on and on. Like WrestleMania is 2 days. It's like, no, I don't watch it. Like Tommy had a WrestleMania party at his store. I left after the first match. Like it's just not. The guys are tremendous. The guys are great talents. They're great athletes, but it's just not my thing right now to watch live. I'll watch as soon as this is over. My kids are asleep. I'm gonna watch superstars of wrestling from '87 and love it. I could watch Demolition versus the British Bulldogs or the Killer Bees versus the Hart Foundation all day long, but I don't want to see Drew McIntyre versus Kevin Owens. Great guys. Kevin Owens was real good to my son. I just thought of his name, for instance. He's a huge star, millionaire. I mean, he's done a million things more than I'll ever do. I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just saying it's just not what I enjoy watching. It's like I don't like watching tennis. Doesn't mean tennis players aren't talented or there's not people who enjoy tennis. I just don't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah, I find a lot of the current wrestling, when they're like really long pay-per-views, what happens where I get bored of them is they try and pace it out too much, and they should look at quality over quantity, and I find it's too much quantity. But yeah, the other question I asked following on was, you pretty much said like some stuff about it, but I'll get some more take. Thoughts on the overall wrestling landscape currently?
It's a good time to be a wrestler and to be a wrestling fan. I mean, there's wrestling on what 7 days a week, so there's a lot of work for wrestlers. There's a lot of content for fans. You know, when I was a kid, you watched the squash matches on Saturday. You had to pay to see the big matches in the arena, and you got one or two or three, and then four pay-per-views a year. And Saturday Night's Main Event. Oh my gosh, that was like the greatest thing ever. Saturday Night's Main Event. You had to see a top guy versus a top guy, and the Monday Night Wars come, and everything's competitive, and there's no more squash matches, but the business changes. But um, it's I forgot your question. I started rambling. What was the question?
Oh, the question was just thoughts on the overall wrestling landscape
Yeah,
currently.
heck, I don't want to sound like an old timer, but if I broke in now, I'd have, I'd have a lot more places to work because you can go anywhere. I mean, you can make a living on the indies these days. There's a lot of work, so that's a good thing. It's a good thing that there's a lot of options out there and that there's a lot of content if you like that type of thing. If you enjoy current wrestling, you're going to get a lot of it.
Yeah. I'll follow on with this. El Guardian has another question for you.
Guardian, what do you got, brother? Injuries. Okay, so I never had like a broken arm or a torn pec. Luckily, I've never had any substantial injuries. I've never nothing like where I couldn't. I mean, I guess I've missed a show for being injured, but never like where it's anything serious, needing any surgeries. However, the years and years of just the abuse to your body now at my age, 48 years old, it takes a toll on your knees, on your back, on your neck, on your joints. So I was fortunate enough where there was never like that one terrible injury, but it's just a course of when you work hard and you take a lot of bumps. I tell the new guys this, every body has a bump card. Your body might be 10,000 bumps. Your body might be, I don't know, I'm just making up a number. But once you've reached it, you're done. So let your bump card last because you have no idea what that number is. So that's why I stopped wrestling because I was physically it was just too much physically to keep wrestling. And you also get older and you lose some of the love and the passion for it. But it was just physically, it was rough to keep wrestling and to justify, giving up my weekend to if I wrestle on a Saturday, then to be in pain until Tuesday. It's just so yeah, just take care of your body, take care of your bump card because, like I said, you don't know how many's on there.
That leads me on to the other question I was going to ask. Thoughts on professional wrestling training? What goes into training to be a professional wrestler?
I think less thought should go on the moves and more thought should go in how to make a connection with the crowd. Because when I was a kid, I went to see Hulk Hogan versus Killer Khan at the Meadowlands Arena, and I could still hear the screaming for Hulk Hogan versus Killer Khan. And if the match happened today, it would be a Dave Meltzer dud, but it sold out everywhere it went. And the crowd left in a frenzy because they're emotionally into Hulk Hogan. I think that's what kills wrestling these days is that when I was a kid, I didn't go to the shows and say, man, I hope I see a 5-star match. I didn't. That wasn't the object of pro wrestling when I was a kid. It was, I hope my hero beats the bad guy. That's what pro wrestling was. It's not, let's go out there so we can get over on the internet and get over in the dirt sheets and have a 5-star match. Again, Hulk Hogan versus Killer Khan, Junkyard Dog versus Ron Bass. When I was a kid, I was emotionally invested in that match. I watch it now, it's a snooze fest. It's a 15-minute headlock. But as a kid who paid to see that, that's what I want to see. I want to see Junkyard Dog beat Ron Bass. I want to see Hulk Hogan beat Killer Khan. I didn't want to see flips and flops and, chant, you still got it, or whatever. It's like, this is awesome. What was awesome was when he dropped the leg and he pinned him 1, 2, 3. That was awesome because our hero was still the champ. So that's my thoughts on current wrestling. It should be less on the moves because everybody can do the moves. There's always going to be someone who do the moves better, and more on connecting with the crowd and ring psychology. Call it in the ring. Call it in the ring. Call your match in the ring. Try that one time. You'll be surprised. You should have a good match more than
Yeah,
the acrobat routine that whatever you plan in the back.
yeah. I myself with current wrestling find with like the mainstream. I'm not talking about because there's so many platforms to watch wrestling, like Fight, whatnot. All the different platforms you can watch, like a lot of super indies and that. But if you're talking WWE, AEW, etc., I find there's a lot of matches that come across as spot training matches, but they don't know how to work the match. Where I was watching a match between you and Devon Storm, and there was all these really good high spots. It was for Grandmasters of Wrestling, and I was like, that's a really fast paced match, but you're actually working the match. For a lot of the current AEW people, WWE, etc., they don't work the match. They go fast spot for spot, but it's like a training match. There's no psychology, so that's one of the things I find hard to watch at the moment. Um, El Guardian has a last question. LOL.
If I had one more match, who would it be with? I'd probably Crowbar. Probably Crowbar or Bret Hart. I always want to wrestle. I always want to wrestle Bret Hart. Always want to wrestle Ricky Steamboat. Those are two guys I never did. I got to wrestle countless of my heroes as a kid, but those are two that I always want to wrestle. Probably Crowbar. El Guardian, do you follow me on YouTube? Make sure you do. Wrestling Then and Now. Check me out.
Yeah, it's quite a good show. I follow Wrestling Then and Now. They've got like a lot of great interviews and stuff.
Yeah,
You've got a lot of great interviews and stuff on it.
I've had oh gosh. Thank you, buddy. I've been doing it since July, and it's really I'm already a part of the monetary program on YouTube as of 2 days ago, which means nothing. I'll make 17 cents this month. It's not like 5 years from now. Hopefully, I'll make some money, but it's just awesome. I've been doing it 5.5 months. I have more stuff that I haven't uploaded yet. I have Axe. I've Smash. I have Thrasher from the Headbangers, Bill DeMott, Fandango. Who else? Duke the Dumpster, Bushwhacker Luke, Wendy Richter. So many more that I haven't even posted yet. That's not even what I have already up there now. So make sure you check it out. Wrestling Then, THEN, and now on YouTube, on Instagram. Yeah, check me out. It's been a lot of fun. It's been like therapy for me. Like legit. I was talking to Max Payne. Remember Max Payne? He's coming on the show soon. I was chatting with him yesterday. I was like, it's therapy for me. I get to talk wrestling. And it's just fun. And I think when I stopped wrestling for a while. I think I didn't become bitter because I never was a big enough star to say, oh, I need my spot back. So I never got bitter, but I just got distant from wrestling. So I was just like, oh, you're watching that crap, So, but now it's through this YouTube experience. It's awesome. I get to just have fun and chat wrestling and catch up and make friends, and yeah, it's awesome. Love it, love it. Check me out. Give me a follow or subscribe. What do the kids
Um,
call it these days? Subscribe.
yep. Just want to say I appreciate your questions, El Guardian. Anyone else that wants to comment questions, whatnot, I encourage it. So feel free.
Is there anyone else watching, or is it just our Algarian brother?
Um, yeah. Uh, not gonna comment. Ha ha ha. People should tune in. It's a stress. I'm gonna treat it like some promoters where you just bullshit about things. um, I'll probably get hits when I upload it to YouTube. Um,
Cool. Sir.
yeah, same. I prefer those eras. Just because they were sort of like more I felt like there was more storytelling and psychology, and it was more interesting. Where they worked the crowd and could work. Where now I just feel like it's spots.
I
I
don't
don't
want
mind.
I don't want gray. I want black and white. Darth Vader wasn't a nice guy. You know what I mean? He wasn't winking at the camera. He was Darth effing Vader. He was scared the hell out of me. You know, that's I want black, I want white. I don't want everything's gray. So I don't want to get anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I find that too nowadays. You want like a heel and a face, and it gets boring just seeing everything grey where you don't know what to emotionally invest in.
Right.
Emotional investment. That's pretty much what I think's missing nowadays. Storytelling.
Yep.
That leads me to asking this question: what goes into promoting yourself as a wrestler?
I have no idea. I mean, nowadays it would be, get your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, your social media. Like social media is just huge, huge. I run a business. I run a part-time business on social media. You know what I mean? I sell a lot of stuff on social media. So I would say, make sure you know what you're doing social media wise. Um, but there's nothing better than intermission going out there and meeting the fans and building a grassroots following and getting to know them and like, hey, I'm Mike Moraldo. Hey, I'm Mike. I always just introduce myself as Mike. So if you're on these shows, like everyone just goes in the back and stays in the back. Go talk to the fans. Go meet people. These people. Your job as an independent wrestler is not to have a good match. Okay, I'm going to teach everyone a lesson right now. So hopefully, there's more than our one brother listening to this. Your job is not to have a good match. It's not. That's not your job. Your job is to get the people to come back to the next show and to the next show and to tell their friends. That's your job. Your job is to hook these people and have them come back. So if you're having the best match ever and you're in the same building and there's still 12 people, you're not a good wrestler. You're not. And the promoter's not a good promoter, but you're not a good wrestler. Because forget the flips. You didn't get people to care about you to tell their friends, hey, I was there last month. Come this month. So that's I'd say to be a wrestler. You need to be able to network yourself. You need to be able to promote yourself. You need to go on social media, but you need to also get the people to care about you.
Yeah, definitely need like content. Um, like a great example, there's a streaming platform I follow. It's actually pretty cheap. Are you familiar with the Savoldi Wrestling Library?
Joe
Mario
Savoldi?
Savoldi,
Oh, I wrestled for them.
ICW.
Yeah, I wrestled for them before.
Yeah, they've got like a streaming platform where it's like $3 or $4 Australian, and you can watch like all the old ICW, and they've got like
Oh,
best ofs like Ric Flair,
yeah.
Terry Funk, etc.
For Savoldi?
Yeah,
He was big with
Savile Media.
like Taz. He used to have Tommy Dreamer,
Yeah,
Surfer Ray Odyssey. He was
yeah, all
all
that.
those guys. His son, Jumpin' Joe Savoldi. I remember. Yeah, I mean, they're all from my area. So when I was a kid, I used to go there. I'll tell you a Joe Savoldi story. So I was doing WWF. This is funny. I was doing WWF TV, and it was like a Tuesday and a Wednesday night. So I wrestled one night. I wrestled Shawn Michaels, my hero, the greatest wrestler of all time. I wrestled Shawn Michaels. As I'm driving to the next building, I see an indie guy that I just happen to know walking down the street. I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? He's like, what am I doing here? What are you doing here? I'm like, I'm on my way to Scranton for TV tomorrow. He's like, well, we're wrestling here for Savoldi at 11 a.m. So I'm like, well, I don't have to be at TV till 3. You think I can get on the show? He's like, we're in the bar right now with Manny Fernandez. Can you cut? I pulled the car over right there. So we go in the bar, meet Manny Fernandez. He gets in a bar fight with some guy, punches some guy in the face. I'm like, oh my gosh, get me out of here. So the next day I go to TV, I go to Savoldi's TV, and I said, do you need anybody? I'm here with my gear, blah, blah. And I worked with a guy, Kodiak Bear. I don't know if you know Kodiak Bear. Good heel. Yeah, no disrespect. This story is no disrespect to his talent. I'd say it's in front of him because it's so funny. So I wrestled Shawn Michaels, I wrestled Kodiak Bear, and then that night at TV I wrestled Owen Hart. So it's like Shawn Michaels, Kodiak Bear, Owen Hart, like the two greatest. He was sandwiched between the two greatest wrestlers like of all time. So I just always thought that was pretty funny. That's my Savoldi story, my Kodiak
Yeah,
Bear story. I have a Manny Fernandez story.
oh, yeah, you got a Manny Fernandez story.
Well, I just said
Oh,
he was in the bar and
oh yeah,
he punched some guy in the face the first time I met him like 10 minutes into our conversation. He punched some stranger in the face at the bar.
that would have been intriguing. Get
Yeah,
out the bar, the next thing you know, whack.
Manny Fernandez.
um, yeah, with the Savoldi vault, they have like a Facebook page, Savoldi Wrestling Library. I'll probably PM it to you, but on their streaming platform, they actually do have a best of Jumping Joe Savoldi as well. So they've got like heaps of great content. I love it. Um, I'll ask you this question: what advice would you give someone looking to become a wrestler?
Cool. Get your degree. Have a plan B, because you could be the best garage band in the world. Doesn't mean you're gonna get a record deal. You know, if you're the greatest baseball player in the world, you're gonna become a major league baseball player. If you're the greatest football player, you're gonna work. You're gonna wrestle. You're gonna play for the NFL. If you're in entertainment and you're great at something, does not guarantee you a spot. And these guys get these spots and they last a year, 2 years, 3 years. You make $100,000 for 3 years after you pay your road expenses. That's just like working a regular, 9 to 5 somewhere. So make sure you get a degree so you can control your own destiny. In '95, there was no doubt in my mind I was going to be a huge wrestling star, and never happened. But I have a degree. I have a great career. I don't have anything to worry about financial, as far as financial is concerned, and that's because I went to college and I work hard outside of wrestling, and let's get a degree. You want to be a wrestler? Great, be a wrestler. Get a degree. I did it. Me and Crowbar, when we wrestled for WCW, we were in college. When I did TV jobs for WWE, I was in college. There's a way to do both. Get your degree. Whatever you want to do in this life, get your degree. But you want to be a wrestler? Go for it.
I'll put up like El Guardian's networking thing again because it leads to the other question I was going to ask. What does a promoter look for from a potential wrestler, bookings, etc.?
I've never promoted. I mean, I got booked all the time because I could fill any role. If you had a WWF guy coming in that you knew you could not hurt one of the Golden Gooses, they'd put him in there with me. I wrestled, uh, you know, guys their first day, their first matches. They said put him in there with me because they know I'm going to take it. I'm going to get them through it. So just be. I'd say promoters look for guys who can do it all and fill a lot of different hats, but that's probably not the case either. I think promoters now just want the young guys who go on social media who could do flips, but I don't know what a promoter wants. It depends on the show, it depends on the town, but yeah, I'd say the way I got to work, many, many, many times every single month for 15 years was I could fill any spot in the card. I could fly, I could wrestle, I could talk, I could carry someone through a match. I could, that's what made me successful in the indies.
I mean, I'll ask this question: what is your ideal wrestler you would want to work with in the ring?
Someone who is safe. If you ever talk to Darren Young when he was first breaking in, and I was working with him the first time I met him, first thing I said to him is, "Tell me what you can do that you're not going to hurt me." So that's that someone who's safe. That's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Someone who's safe. It's not someone. You don't have to be a great worker. You don't have to be a great anything. You just have to be. You have to be safe. Ideally, you want someone who can go and keep up with you and wants to just have fun. Wrestling should be fun. And when it's no longer fun to do it, that's another reason why I got out. Because when I pull up to a show and I'd say, oh gosh, Can these 3 hours be over? It's time to get out and let someone else take your spot on the show. But yeah, someone was safe. Someone who likes wrestling.
Awesome stuff. With what we were talking about before, I find growing up, I used to go to like different circuses a lot, and I find like current wrestling can be like the circus, where a lot of circuses nowadays are missing some of the acts. Where back in the day, you had more acts, so I find it a struggle because I compare it a bit like the circus. But I'll ask this question: um, Who are some rising stars in wrestling we might not be familiar with that you think will have a future in professional wrestling?
I don't watch it, buddy. I really don't know. I really
You
don't.
mentioned Rick Recon before,
Yeah,
but he's kind of an enemy of yours.
yeah. But he's good. There's a tag team called the Now. That's really good. But that's just Tommy shows. And when I go to Tommy shows, I don't really watch the show either. I just hang out in the back with my friends. They make jokes with Bull James and Danny Doring and Crowbar. Talk about the good old days. You know, but I don't really even watch it when I'm at the shows. Unless I'm involved in the match. Like I was involved in a match with the Now, or I was involved in a match with Rick Recon. That's how I got to see them. Otherwise, I'm not like standing by the curtain watching wrestling. I've seen like Crowbar. You talk about Crowbar. I love the man like no other. But he'll send me like a match of his, and I'm like, I don't watch wrestling. I've seen you wrestle. I've watched so much wrestling in my day. It's like I don't watch it, so I really can't comment on current stuff, and I really can't comment on who's going to be a good star because I don't know what makes a good star anymore. I don't know. Kevin Owens is a huge star. Sami Zayn is a huge star. If they broke in when I broke in, and they would be getting 4 minutes in the ring with the Quebecers. That's just the way the business was back then. And if they went to the top rope and did flips like we did, the people would crap on them. But now that's the style. Now that's what's expected. I mean, Daniel Bryan, if he broke in when I broke in, Daniel, hell of a talent. I've had dinner with the man, wonderful person. I remember I had dinner with Daniel Bryan when he was the American Dragon, and I just kept talking to him, thinking he is so nice. It's a shame he's never going to be able to make money wrestling. True story. I'm like, it's a shame. I was very wrong, but like that style is accepted these days, and it's encouraged. But when I was breaking in, it was frowned upon. So I don't know what makes a current star because I was never able to become one of them. Maybe I broke into. Maybe I broke in too soon. I don't know. I don't know, but. So
Um,
I've said that about The Rock too. I was at a TV taping, and and he was there. This was the TV right after SummerSlam when Austin got dropped on his head by Owen, and The Rock came back from a knee injury, and Crowbar Devin was talking to him. He met him the night before, and then when I came, he said, "Oh, Rocky, this is my buddy." We started talking. I'm like, "This guy is charismatic. He's good looking. He's got the size." It's a shame he's never going to get over. Because that was the Rocky die stuff or whatever. Man, it's a shame that Dwayne the Rock Johnson's never going to make any money. I still feel bad for him. We should start a GoFundMe for him.
have you played the arcade machine WrestleFest at the Wrestling Collector yet?
It's funny. I was there. I had off the week between Christmas and New Year's. I went up on Thursday, and I put a quarter in. I hit the button, and I started playing. I got distracted, and I was talking. I think his mom showed up or something, and I never played it. No, I used to play that. I used to work down at Seaside at the shore, and Stevie Richards came down one time, and I was like, let's go play WrestleFest together, and we played WrestleFest for a while. But I used to love that game. That game's awesome.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's one of the classics for sure. This leads me to another question mention. Any unsung heroes with professional wrestling you'd like to give a shout out to?
It's a good question. I'm going to be going to bed tonight, and I'm going to say, oh, I should have said this. But just the guys, like I said, the Reckless Use, the Simon Diamonds, Danny Infernos, just the guys who always showed up and worked hard. Cheetah Master, Boogie Boogie Browns, Mr. Ooh La La. The guys like that just show up and get it, and they don't wrestle. They ain't making any money. We weren't making any money, but we did it because we loved wrestling. Yeah. If I had more time, I could probably think of a real good answer, but yeah, just like I said, just the guys that don't make any money. There's no money in indie wrestling. No one's doing it for the money unless you're on television and you're a Matt Hardy doing an indie show, and you're the headliner. No one's making any money. After you pay for your gas, and especially gas these days, no one's making any money. They're doing it because they love wrestling. So, to everybody who's out there busting their butts.
Yeah, I compare it to like the indie music scene versus like the big record labels. And so a lot of people on the like indie music scene, like the indie wrestling scene, are doing it for passion.
Mm-hmm.
What do you enjoy?
I just thought of a funny story if you want me to tell it. Because I was talking about when I worked down at the shore with and Stevie Richards came down. I used to work down at Seaside on the boardwalk, and everyone would be there. Like Bubba Ray Dudley before he was Bubba Ray Dudley would be there. Mike Bell, it was Jersey Shore. I literally worked on the actual boardwalk. So I was doing TV one time, and Howard Finkel, God rest his soul. What a wonderful man Howard Finkel was. Oh my God, just what a sweet, beautiful person. I love the Fink. He's just a nice man. He said and if he just talks to you, he's got that Fink voice. So he's like, "You're from the Jersey Shore." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm going to Seaside next week." I'm like, "I work there, Howard." And this is before cell phones. He couldn't say, "Hey, text me when you're there." He goes, "Where do you work?" And I said, "I work for Lucky Leo's." Shout out to Lucky Leo's. But I'm on the boardwalk. He's like, "I'll find you." I'm like, "Howard, it's a big boardwalk. Who knows if we're gonna be there same time?" He goes, "I'll find you." So there I am working in the stand. And I don't know if you're familiar with the boardwalks, but they have like popped up the dart, the balloon with the dart or whatever. Like boardwalk games. You win a stuffed animal, and all I hear is I see a guy walking towards me in a hat and a bathing suit. I can't see the face, but I hear, "Hello, Michael. How are you?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's Howard Finkel!" And he came over, and I was hanging with the Fink on the Jersey Shore. I was like, "Wow, this is one of my favorite moments." I should have put that when our buddy asked us. But yeah, shout out to Howard Finkel. Rest in peace. Great guy.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, it was. It was great. And literally the voice, like with all that bravado and the thickness. Is that a word? It is now. All that thickness. It's like from across the boardwalk. And I'm like, oh my God, I know that voice anywhere. Yeah, Howard Finkel.
Awesome stuff. What do you enjoy most from professional wrestling?
The interaction with the guys. It's it really is a brotherhood, or it should be anyway, with trust and you put your body on the line. I talked to Lash LaRue today. Remember him
Yeah,
from WCW?
awesome cartoonist.
Yeah, I met him like twice, said hello to him, but through the YouTube show, I called him up, and we just start talking, and we're just talking, and we're laughing, and we're talking deep, deep, deep stuff. It's like I don't want to get into his story, but he was very motivating, positive. Like I got a new lease on life, and I'm loving not being in wrestling because I can look back and reflect how great the times really were. Like it was just all positive, good vibes. And I said to him, like, this is why I love wrestling, because I don't think two bankers get on the phone with each other and they say, "Oh, remember when we worked the teller booth." What I mean? I don't think teachers. I just think I don't know something with wrestling. It's like I said to him, I think it's because we're all kind of crazy, because who else would want to do this if you're not a little bit crazy? But we're all kind of wired the same way, more or less. I mean, some more, some less. But I said to him, I was like, I feel like I've known you my entire life, and I've talked to you for 10 minutes, and it has to do with just the wrestling brotherhood. And like, I'm like, wow, dude, I can't wait to have you on my show and talk to you now. And I've texted him like 5 times since then. It's like, I don't know, there's just something about the friendship, the brotherhood of wrestling that I miss more than anything. Like I said, I go to shows. I don't watch the matches. I don't want to be involved in the matches. I don't. Oh, get in the ring. No, I want to talk to. I want to talk to Alpha Junior and see how he's been, and Crowbar and Doring and Bull James and all my friends there, Mike Tarris, and that's what I miss. And just hang out with Tommy. But That's what I miss the most.
Being that you mentioned Lash LaRue, it reminded me of WCW where he's in a stable with Bill DeMont. I'm going to ask you a story about Bill DeMont lending you wrestling boots, was it? I'm trying to remember.
Where'd you hear that? Wow, did I say that on one of my interviews?
I think you were saying it, or I might have
Wow.
got it
Okay. Well,
wrong.
it's he didn't lend me boots. I was Bill DeMott is a wonderful person. A wonderful person. I had him on my show. It was the day after Thanksgiving. We recorded for 2.5 hours. Like I said, Bill, you sure? He's like, buddy, we can go all day. And we literally laughed and all the whole time, and we literally cried. Two grown men crying on the episode. I can't wait to post it. Um, I love Bill DeMott. I can't say enough nice things about Bill DeMott. When I did TV for WCW, I had raggedy, cruddy boots, and Bill said to me, "What size are you?" He's like, "You're going to be at TV and such," and he came with a brand new pair of black boots. He goes, "I don't need these." He goes, "You keep them." And this is I always say this is before the days of social media when you do things with a camera in your face to try and get yourself over. Bill just did it because he just wanted to help out he's a Jersey guy. I'm a Jersey guy. He just wanted to help out one of the young guys. Love Bill DeMott. Love me some Bill DeMott.
Yeah, he's a nice fella. I was on his show Face Value, and also done a cameo with him where I like to ask advice to people in the wrestling industry, etc. He had some really good advice.
Yeah.
Can you run us through what happens on show day with like a
Oh,
wrestling show?
a wrestling show?
Yeah, just
Or-
your basic stuff, like if you're a pro wrestler preparing for like a match, whatnot.
I mean, depends when you're on, how long you're going, who you're working with, how many times you've worked before. I mean, it can be as simple as you show up and you work first, and or it could be something where you're there a couple hours. I always love getting there early because, like I said, I love the brotherhood and the camaraderie and hanging out. But it really depends. It really do. I mean, it's not. It gets to a point where it's not even pressure anymore. You just, it's like second nature. You just go out. It's like getting out of bed, putting together a wrestling match. Yeah, I mean, it just gets to a point where it's like business. What's the match going to be about? What's the story of the match? What's the finish? And but you figure out the rest. Wrestling can be so easy. I tell people all the time. Wrestling can be so easy. One guy needs to do this. One guy needs to do this, and the rest you fill in. I mean, that's really all. That's really all wrestling has to be. That's all you need.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, it reminds me of like local musicians where a lot of people are happy to like do a jam and see where like it goes like on the night sometimes getting that vibe. Um yeah, definitely. You do your own podcast, Wrestling Then and Now. Could you tell us more about it?
Oh, it's YouTube. I haven't done the podcast yet. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't. I want to do a podcast. I don't know how to. Like in July, I literally was on YouTube saying, "What is a thumbnail? Like, how do I download a video?" I didn't know what a thumbnail was. Like every video started with me like I was in mid sentence. Like that was the first picture. I was like, because YouTube will grab 3 seconds in. So my kids don't play with toys. They go on YouTube and they watch other kids play with their toys. Like YouTube is huge. All they do is on YouTube. So it was July 10th. My neighbor came over. He's like, "You got a lot of wrestling connections." He's like, "Why don't you do a YouTube show?" And I'm like, I don't want the attention. I don't have any time. And he goes, "You should really do it." So you could probably make some money. And then I started researching it. And I'm like, it's gonna be a lot of work. I'm like, I'll just give it a try. And I'm fortunate enough that I've been nice to people for 30 years in wrestling, and people like Matt Stryker, who when he was breaking in, I was the veteran and helping him out, or the Darren Youngs, or uh, Jim Brunzell. Oh my gosh, huge hero of mine. When he came to Tommy's convention, 4 years ago. I work, all Tommy's conventions, and I was there the night before, hanging out with him. So it's like anything else in life. If you're nice to people, they remember it. So like when I ask the people that I ask, would you mind doing my show? 99% say yeah, and it's really I got almost 3,700 subscribed. They say it takes about a year to get 1,000 subscribers. I have 3,700 in 6 months. I just got approved 2 days ago for the monetary program, which means I got 4,000 hours. I've had like 50 guests. I mean, I've had Sky Duhati, I've had Headbanger Mosh, Headbanger Thrasher, Cherry, Bull James, Steve Carino, Jack Victory, Danny Doring, Samu, Manu, Big Vito, Crowbar. Oh gosh, I'm gonna forget people. I mean, so many. Alan Funk, Axe Smash. I think I mentioned those guys already. I had Sunil Singh, one of the Singh brothers, the other day. I had Fandango, who used to watch me. He used to watch me wrestle, and I'm like, dude, this, it's crazy. I mean, I have so many things coming up. I never, excuse me, until I click record, I never announce it because things change all the time. So I mean, I'm ready to post an interview with Reno Riggins. That guy has some great stories, So it's sometimes crazy. It gets these big stars on there, but sometimes you have like journeymen like Reno Riggins or Jack Victory that maybe certain people, not every wrestling fan has heard of or familiar, but they got a story too. I got a story too. There are people who might be watching this saying, "Who the hell is this guy?" And you have every right to say that, but yeah, I'll listen to anything. Like if there's an interview with the guy who used to do lighting for Mid South Wrestling, I'm gonna listen to it. He's got a story, So it's just when I have a show, it's just two guys talking wrestling, and that's I don't look for the dirt. I'm never saying oh, you got arrested here. It comes up, it comes up. I tell the guys, you're in charge of the show. Whatever you don't want to say something, we edit it out and we go from there. But I mean, I've had Stevie Richards, Nunzio. Trying to think. Oh, TJ Wilson. I had TJ Wilson on my show. Never met the guy before in my life. We're talking 2 hours pro wrestling. I'm like, TJ, I wanted 45 minutes. He's like, this is a blast. Keep going. I've had Paul Orndorff's son. We did a tribute to Mr. Wonderful. And British Bulldog's daughter, Georgia Smith. We did a tribute to Davey Boy Smith. Tom Brandy. Just trying to remember everybody. I don't. Kevin Sullivan. Kevin Kelly. Oh, 2 hours with Kevin Kelly. I love that man. We talked about everything. What Jameson? Remember Jameson?
Yeah.
I had Jameson on the show. It's like I'm just reaching out, and I'm just so fortunate that between my connections, between Tommy's connections, and between social media, I mean, I'm getting not everybody, but most of the people. I'm getting a lot of yeses, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So, and with his convention coming up, I'm gonna have a lot of content. So, Wrestling Then and Now, THEN, Wrestling Then and Now. Check me out. I'm on Instagram, Wrestling Then and Now. I'm also on Instagram, WWF Golden Era. That's me. I'm also on Instagram as Mike Moraldo. I'm also on Facebook, Mike Moraldo. Hit me up anytime. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome stuff. I remember you had like little Guido on the show as well. He was a good one. I'll ask you this question: any advice you have for people doing like a show like yours, like Wrestling Then and Now, just like getting into like I'm doing with like good couple of LLJ, just promoting wrestling and doing what you're doing, interviewing people, whatnot.
Just be nice to people. I like I said, I always let the guys know. I was talking to someone the other night who he never met me before, but I don't want to say his name because he didn't commit yet. But he said yeah, call him next week. But he's a wrestler that I used to watch when I was a kid, and I said to him, listen, I don't want the dirt. I want to celebrate. I want to celebrate you. I said I want to ask all positive questions about you. Here's my page. Check me out. You'll see. Do we talk about some dirt? Sure, if the guy wants to talk about it, but I'm not gonna. That's not because I had Georgia Smith, British Bulldog's daughter. And she said to me, she's like, I don't do these because people don't know how to ask the right questions. They want to know about, I mean, bad things about her dad, I'm sure. They ask inappropriate questions. I said to her, this will be I sent her the piece I did with Travis Orndorff about Paul Orndorff. I said, it's a celebration. That's how I tell guys. I'm here to honor you if you come on my show. You're in charge. It's all pre-recorded. So if I ask you a question that you don't want, which is never going to happen, you just say, let's cut that out. And we don't go there. So just be honest with people. Advice. Always keep learning. That's you don't know. I'm in sales. I work about 11 hours a day. I got 3 kids. I got a wife. But I just wake up earlier. I go to bed later. If I got a lunch break at work, I'm doing work with the YouTube. I'm editing videos. I'm going on YouTube to learn how to make better thumbnails, how to make better edits, different software. I ask for help. Excuse me. I ask help. I had a few friends. I have a buddy Dan who he's great with technology. He helps me out so much. Know what you're good at and just get better. Like I noticed my first couple of videos, like I'm a fast talker. I don't realize it because I'm a fast talker. When I listen to myself talk, then I know it. I would do this weird blinking thing in my first couple of videos. Like just always watch your stuff and try and get better. But that's like I said earlier, more reps for anything in life is you're gonna get better at it. So I mean I really can't give advice on YouTube because like I said, I'm only 6 months into it. And I've just been lucky that I have a lot of good connections. So there's nothing special about me other than I work my butt off, and other people might not be willing to work as hard as me, so I'll go further. You know, it's, like I said, hopefully I'll have 5,000 subscribers soon. But I'm always working it. I don't. If I'm awake, I'm either working my regular job, I'm taking care of my kids, or I'm working on YouTube or Instagram. I'm always working. So just hard work, ask for help, be nice to people, always be improving. Like right now, I'm watching myself. I like your screen because I can see myself. I'm not doing the weird blinking thing. So I like this. Like when we first got on here, I said, "What's the software you're using? How does it work? What's it cost?" And I'm always trying to, like, I'll go on my Instagram and I'll say, "Hey, who's part of the monetary program on YouTube? Hit me up." And I'll just make friends and I'll network and I'll say, "How did you do this? How did you get there? How did you get network? Yeah, how did you get to where you are?" And learn from them. Don't reinvent the wheel in life. Don't reinvent the wheel. You won't get credit for it because there's already a wheel. Just find if you want to be successful in life, find someone who's where you want to be and do everything they did to get there, and you'll get there. Ooh,
Awesome.
that was a long-winded answer.
Oh, it was good though. Like there was a lot of good points you made. Like an example of what like my vision is for good couple of LLJ. I might even ask your advice on like marketing. Um, I've got like a concept in my head, and I'm just gonna see how it flows with treating like it like a cup of tea, cup of coffee, seeing where the conversation goes. So I'm sort of like trying to create a format where this show links with my Facebook group, and I'll like talk to wrestling personalities, fans, whatnot on the show, or wrestling ring crew or staff or whatever. And also I'll do like interactive chats as well. And so I'm trying to create like an interactive platform. Um, but like being that you've done like marketing and whatnot, where you have you do that. What would your advice be like with that sort of format with what I just described with my vision?
Yeah, see, I don't know anything about the live. See, my show's not live. Like, I don't do the interactive thing. I'd love to. That's a great idea. It's hard to nail someone down. See, one of the excuse me, my butt's falling asleep. One of the issues is time. Like when you do a format like this where it's live, you have to get someone at a specific time. One of the beauties of my show is I've recorded at 6 a.m. I've recorded with Matt Stryker at 10 p.m. because that's when his kids go to bed. So that's one of the beauties of recording with me is that I listen. You're the boss. When can you meet? Meet noon for 45 minutes on Tuesday. I'll make myself available. So you might find it a little difficult, especially with your time difference too, nailing down times for someone to go live because so many times I've had people who 20 minutes before the show starts before, hey, I'll meet you at 7, they say, can we go an hour later or can we go tomorrow? It's no problem for me. Yeah, bro, I'm not going to post your interview till June. I have so much content. Yeah, we can go whenever you want. But for someone like you, like if I said to you, hey, can we go at 8:00? Well, if you're advertising 7:00, now who looks like the jerk? You do, because it's your show. So you might run into this. That's the only hiccup I could see coming up, is that if it is interactive and it is live, you got to find people who do it and stick to their word. Listen, crap comes up. Crap comes up. My daughters came home. If one of them needed something, I might say to you, hey, let's do it in 20 minutes. That's life. Especially what am I going to tell? Demolition Smash. Demolition Smash. We were scheduled for 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. He thought we were, and it said it in the text. Yeah, great. Talk to you then. He thought it was 6:30 Central Time. Dude, my show's pre-recorded. We can. What, you're gonna be an hour late? Whatever. But for someone like you, that could be an issue. I give a lot of long-winded answers. Man.
Yeah, I did run into one hurdle. I'll tell you a funny story recently. It worked out. Where I was speaking to a guest and he said I'll be 10 minutes and half hour in. And so I spent like a half hour trying to keep people interested. And then we got to the show. I made a joke about it, like some live indie shows where they'll be late, like starting the show. But yeah, it ended up working out fairly well. These things happen, but yeah, it might be something to consider. I don't know. It's one of those things where I think you just got to roll with the punches as well. I'll get ready to finish up. I'm sort of. I might ask you if you have any more funny stories from wrestling that you're interested in telling, or
Stories. It's like, you'll split your tights. Oh, try and wear under trunks because you're gonna split your tights. I remember one time I went to the top rope and I did like the Macho Man. Remember Macho Man put his arms up, like you before he did something. I did that and I fell backwards, and that could have been crazy. Rings break. First time I wrestled Chris Candido, he was skipping the WWE at the time, and Dennis would use Chris because he was tight with Chris, and he would get WWE guys. And this was the first indie match where I got to wrestle. I got to wrestle tons of WWE guys, but this was the first indie match, and I got to wrestle a WWE guy. And I knew Chris, and I wrestled him, 30 times after this. But our first match, he was Skip, and Chris was a worker, man. Chris was a worker. Like it was, literally, it would be like Chris would grab it. He'd grab a headlock, shoot him off, tackle, drop down, leapfrog. He'd slide through your legs. You'd hit the ropes. He'd drop down. He'd leapfrog. You'd stop. He'd hit the ropes. Duck one, duck two, backdrop. It was just, Chris was a work. Wow. So the ring, like the boards, when one of us took a bump, the ring went down, and one of the boards went boop, and was up like this in the middle of the ring. So there was like a hump. And this is like we were gonna go 20 minutes, and it was probably like eight minutes into it. So we had to go home. We had to end the match sooner, but the ring broke. Rings broke a few times. You hit the ropes, the top rope snaps. But yeah, that could happen too. Funny stories. Always tell a story. I'll tell a quick version of this story. One time, we were in a hotel, and Ted Petty. I don't know if you know Ted Petty, Rocco Rock, and me, Crowbar, and remember 911.
yeah,
Big
love
Al
these
was
trade
there.
claims.
Yeah, so Big Al was there, and Al comes down. Al comes down up into a room, and he goes, "You'll never believe what's going on down there in the ballroom." We're like, "What, Al?" Al's a storyteller. He's so like, "What, Al?" He's like, "There's a swingers convention going on down there." We're like, "What?" He's like, "There's a swingers convention. Like, swingers don't have conventions. Like, what are they giving out pamphlets?" They're like, "Yes." But Al, come on, whatever, go to sleep. No, I swear to God. I'm like, all right, let's go. So we went down the lobby, and there was a swingers convention. Like, it was like You obviously know what was going on, but I mean, it was in the ballroom, and they were literally giving out pamphlets like if you want to join their swingers club right there in the hotel. They rented out the ballroom, so that was pretty funny. Swingers convention, you never knew there was such a thing. Um, and so many times you almost died going to a show. There was one time me, Crowbar, and Gino Caruso, it was on my birthday, that we literally, I don't know how we missed an accident by like, and two cars just got, because you're always on the road, you're always driving 6-8 hours somewhere, and the cars right around us just got crushed. And there's another time Matt Bourne was following me and my buddy Mike, and two cars were in front of us. The one car, it was like 2 a.m, you're trying to get home, and the car in front of us fell asleep and smashed into the other car, and so it was just, you just realize, wrestling, being on the road as much, it's just amazing. You take for granted how many times you could have gotten killed. But you ask for funny stories, and again, I'm long-winded, so yeah, I mean, that's really all I got. There's not much more things I haven't talked about, but yeah.
Not a worry. Yeah, I'll just ask you again. Like with wrestling then and now, I'll give you like an opportunity to plug some wrestling then and now stuff, like upcoming shows or where people can reach subscribing to it,
Just
just like accessing it, etc.
wrestling then and now on YouTube. Um, I mean, again, I have so many. I wish I had the list in front of me, but guys I think I've already named them, but guys that I have I have like 40 interviews already up since July, and coming up, I got, like I said, I think I mentioned Wendy Richter, Bushwhacker Luke, Axe, Smash, Headbanger Thrasher, Matt Striker, Sunil Singh, Sunny Beach. He was a guy from Northeast Indies. Reno Riggins, Fandango, Dave LaGreca. I have Dave LaGreca from Busted Open Radio.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
Good guy.
He's pretty popular at the moment with Busted
Yeah,
Open Radio and ISPW.
yeah. There's a few others that I don't remember, but I try. I did upload every day until I hit that 4,000. I'm gonna do it every other day now, and I got a lot of great stuff, man. Listen. I'm a wrestling fan. I'm saying check it out. Give me a subscribe, because you're gonna love it, and especially with Tommy's convention coming in May. I'm Tommy's best friend. I have the keys to the castle there, so I wouldn't be anywhere where I am with the YouTube if it wasn't for Tommy. Tommy's just my best friend. He's my brother. But so check him out too. 80s wrestlingcon.com, and the Wrestling Collector on Instagram. 80s Wrestling on Instagram. ISPW on Instagram, or ISPW Wrestling maybe. I don't know. Yeah, check him out because he's my brother.
They also have some Facebook pages too. I think the Wrestling Collector has a Facebook page and ISPW. Um, yeah, Tommy has a lot of great content as well. I really like your content with Wrestling Then and Now. Follow both. So like as a wrestling fan, not just someone hyping it up. I actually really appreciate the content you're sharing. Like there's some great interviews, like just the people alone that you mentioned. If you're a wrestling fan, are great names. And there's a lot of people that have some really interesting stories. Like Tom Brandy was quite an interesting interview. I quite liked some of the stuff he was mentioning, and Denny Doring or Denny Morrison. I should call him Denny Morrison because he's now the superstar. Denny Morrison. Um, yeah, some awesome stuff on it. Stevie Richards was pretty good too, where he was talking about Mike Sharp. Um,
He's an intelligent, fun guy. Stevie's great.
yeah, and he's talking about like his interest in gym and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yep.
but yeah, it's been a pleasure. Check out. I'll call you by your wrestling name, Ace Darling. But yeah, on Wrestling Then and Now. It's a really good show. On YouTube, it's like up and coming. Make sure to subscribe. I highly encourage it. There's a lot of great content on it, so support stuff with great content. The wrestling world nowadays needs it. So I reckon, check it out. It's on YouTube. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. A lot of really good stories. I appreciate the stories and a lot of great questions from El Guardian and also a lot of really interesting stuff with your background in professional wrestling.
Thank you for having me, buddy. A lot of fun. It was
Would love
nice
to have,
chatting with you.
Yep. Oh yeah, would love to have you on here again sometime in future. I'm at the early stages where I'm sort of like seeing where things go, etc. But eventually I'll probably have like a show format where I'll have people come on back and forth, kind of like you do with Wrestling Then and Now, where you just like chatting to people about your passion for pro wrestling and seeing where the conversation leads.
No, we'll do it again.
No worries, been a pleasure. Thanks for your time. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy. I'll chat with you on Facebook.
No worries. Enjoy the rest of your day or rest of your night in America. And thanks for your time. And once again, been a pleasure. Much appreciated. We'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy.
Catch up. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. That was Ace Darling. Hope you enjoyed the show today. We have Peter Farry. He's on at 1 p.m. Victorian time. Sunday, Jan 8 tomorrow, and 12 noon Queensland time. So looking forward to talking to him. I appreciate Ace Darling's time today. He has a really good show, Wrestling Then and Now, which I highly encourage people to check out on YouTube, subscribe, show your support, etc. Well, I'm going to get ready to head off. I'm going to do a countdown, and then we'll leave it at that. Been a pleasure today. Really appreciate Ace Darling's time and El Guardian's comments as well. And look forward to doing more good Cuppa of LLJ. I'll do the countdown and then going to head off. Been a pleasure. Until next time, peace.